It's amazing having the alumni back on campus, having in the roles that they are in, out in the industry, which are the same roads that you all will be walking on very soon. So it's very special for us to have them here. And it's always amazing. People think that Miss Campbell's so busy. They won't ever come back and talk to us. I'm like, no, you don't understand. They remember when they were in the same chairs as you all were. So it's not if you want to come, it's just when can they fit it in their busy schedules. Tarigh Akoni is a dear, dear, dear friend, and he just has a great understanding and appreciation for coming and speaking with students. So whenever he's coming anywhere near here, he says, Karen, guess what? I'm going to be in town. I'm like, get out of here. When? So all these texts are flying, like, okay, what day? Okay, how long can you, what can we do? Great, great, great. So then he texts me and says, yeah, the whole band wants to come. I'm like, the whole what? So I kept looking at the text like, wait, what's that saying? So I said, this is amazing. So I'm just so excited to have them all here, taking this time out to spend this time with you all and impart their wisdom and talk about their musical journeys. Incredible. So we're capturing this on video. Like I said, so many people are like, oh my gosh, you know, like, and we're capturing it. Come on over, it's all right. But I'm so glad you guys are here. Hope you have tons of questions. Now at our Q&A, Tarigh goes, all right, we only got so much time, so we're not going, let's get to the meat and potatoes. Go ahead. So I'm going to stop talking and turn it over to these wonderful people. We really only have about an hour, so don't be shy. Really, seriously, don't be shy. Tarigh, you would kind of start us off and then we'll
absolutely love to. So hi guys. I don't know if you guys know kind of who all these people are. I mean, these are all friends of mine, but I mean, hopefully you guys have an understanding of some of the incredible talent that's on the stage and some of the credits of these people and whatnot. And what I tend to say, and Karen knows this about me, is my goal, like you guys have clinics and you know, things all year long. My goal is for you guys not to have any questions when you leave here. And I love the idea of like, I want to field whatever questions they are. All of us have the ability to speak scholastically or, you know, colloquially. We tend to go on the colloquial side because for me, I want you to understand, I want it to land. So I have no problem. I always tell people, I will absolutely shoot you straight. More than likely I'll curse and I apologize, it's human nature. But it's really important for me that once again, I know that you guys probably have a lot of questions. I don't want you to feel shy. And you can aim them at anybody on the stage. Everybody here was incredibly excited to come here and talk to you guys and try to kind of impart whatever wisdom information they could. But it really kind of is up to you guys to let us know, what do you want to know? What are you curious about? Is it the industry? Is it drumming in particular, bass playing? Is it production? Is it all, like, whatever you want to know, please, 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 shoot any questions forward. Does anybody want to go first?
I want to know about the industry, and like as far as like just work, like after y'all got out of college, like what did y'all do? Did y'all, like, was everything based off connection? Did you move somewhere and like kind of plug into this person, or just like how does it all go?
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's a combination of all of those things actually. But I guess for me, it really started with going to school, studying during the day, and playing in the evenings as much as possible. Because I graduated from Georgia State University, percussion major, classical and jazz major. So I was really busy during the days, but my day basically was comprised of classes, and then I would go and do sessions at the neighboring studio, do jingles. That kind of got me piped into that community and the recording community in Atlanta. And then from there, I was playing gigs 7 nights a week, you know. And those gigs, that gig that I was doing 7 nights a week landed other gigs, you know. Word of mouth is really big in this industry. Your reputation, people know about you, and they know a lot about you before they even meet you, actually. You know, so it's very important for you to establish a great reputation. You know, now as far as like moving to a different city, yeah, for me that option was going to either be, I grew up in Atlanta, Georgia. That option was going to be either New York or Los Angeles, and I chose Los Angeles. And actually, Los Angeles kind of chose me because I hooked up with Joe Sample in Atlanta, played with him, and then that was the ticket to Los Angeles.
Sonny, how did you get that first?
That very first
Yeah,
album?
how do you, I know how to eat the nut once I open it. Just before you say you're working 7 nights a week. How do you get working 7 nights a week?
Well, I'm doing casuals. I'm accepting any calls that I get basically. And a casual at a local driving club landed me playing with the keyboardist that was doing this gig 7 nights a week. So basically, to answer your question, Liv, I was accepting everything that came across the table. I didn't care about what type of music it was, you know, or any of that. I didn't say I'm a jazz drummer, I'm a classical drummer, I'm a rock drummer, I'm a funk drummer. No, I'm a musician. So if a gig comes across the table, I'm going to take it, and that's exactly how that gig came about. And then things mushroom from there.
Can I dovetail off that, Sonny?
Yeah, sure.
One of the things that Sonny kind of alluded to that's really important is also, in terms of making connections, you guys are actually making connections right now. Like, the way that, something that I say to students is, you know, you already know in your classes who shows up late, who doesn't do their homework, your reputation is already beginning, right? I still work today with people I met at Berklee. In fact, Taku and I, we both went to Berklee together. Yeah. We sat across the street, across the table, having coffee going, I wonder what LA is going to be like. And we used to go to different clubs together and network together. Yeah. These two were actually, they weren't in the same college, but they met around the time they were in college playing in bands and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And these two, Mo and Jeff, they met back in Connecticut, 30 years ago? Yeah. So it's like, so these are the connections that you make, and you build a narrative in terms of what people think about you, what people think, what they say when you're out in the room, all of your work, all of your dedication, all that stuff you put into it. And these kind of things are what move forward. So even when you take those gigs, it's like you're proving yourself every time you do one of those gigs. Like, I got the Tom Scott gig from doing a wedding. I did a wedding, it happened to be the piano player and drummer, and they were like, Tom needed a guitar player, and they said, we just did this wedding with this kid, who yada yada yada. So all of these are your chance to kind of prove yourself, you know, and continue to kind of build that narrative.
That's why you have to take each one of them very seriously. You can't say, oh, this is just this. I'm only going to show up with half of what I need. No. You know, you have to be professional with everyone. You know.
And the other thing is, every gig that you do brings out another side of your musicality.
Yes.
So you get a chance to do something, even if you're playing with someone you think, well, maybe they're not the best musician I've ever played with, but you're going to learn from that experience, and you're going to apply yourself in a way to benefit that situation that playing with another style of musician wouldn't. But I do believe that, and I believe this with my whole heart, and I've learned this through years of doing this, you have the ability to manifest your desire. It's a matter of focusing in, believing it, visioning it, becoming one with it, and then doing the work, deciding this is what I want to do, and I'm going to go out and shake hands, I'm going to go out to clubs, see people play, I'm going to talk to them afterwards, I'm going to give them my business card, I'm going to let them know that I'm, you know, a nice person, I'd love to work with them sometime. You need to be a go-getter, you need to follow through with what it is that your dream is, and don't take no. And if it doesn't work right now, consider that it's in the process of happening. Mm-hmm. And this is what I'm doing to follow what it is that I want to do.
I'm not going to ask if you take unpaid gigs, because we all do, but do you think there's a difference between an unpaid gig of 15 or 20 years ago and an unpaid gig today?
An unpaid gig?
I mean, this is what a lot of people are
I think it
facing.
kind of depends on where you are in your career. Like, if I were a college student today, I'd still take an unpaid gig, because it's about the network, it's about being heard, it's about being seen, it's about people learning, like Jeff said, the type of person that you are, you know, and they can't do that if you don't, you know, if you don't expose yourself.
Well, 15, 20 years ago, I did a lot of paid gigs that ended up being unpaid. That's the response. But you know, not getting paid wasn't, that wasn't the thing for me. It was the experience. I was just eager.
Yeah.
You know? So if I was getting paid, that was like, oh, this is even better. This is the shit right here. Right. So, but then getting not paid for it was like, okay, that's a lesson learned. You know, I'll put that person's name on there and see next time I do that gig. But it was really the experience that we're really talking about, because you just can't get that back. You just got to do those gigs in order to get that experience.
And then I think there's a lot said for bartering. You know, I've done a lot with bartering. You play on my thing, I play on yours. You do my video editing, I'll play on your thing, because now the musician has to have like a whole package. You gotta have a business thing together. I mean, like, we knew nothing about publishing and all that stuff. We were just trying to play the drums or keyboards or whatever, and just, you know, get our name out there. And a lot of us, personally, I can speak and say that, you know, I got kind of taken on a few things because I didn't really know what I was doing at the time, but I learned from those experiences. So I think that, like, when you're talking about this networking now, it's a whole different thing. It's not just music, it's a lot of other things, you know. So build your team around you, I think is something I say a lot to people. And I'll tell you that these experiences last your whole life. I'll be 53 in a couple weeks. These are like pretty much my best friends. They're out here like in the same band. There's a whole story to that, but you know, like Sonny was my best man at my wedding. I'm the godfather of Sam's kids. You know, it's like they go on for life. You know, and you can call on these people. You know, when you find the right one, you can call them for anything you ever need.
Let me say one thing. It never ends.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, no matter the success or whatever, it's once that gig's over, you're starting over again for the most part.
Right.
That's been my experience. So just don't think I've arrived. I'm here. So I'm great.
Yeah, right, Diggy.
When it comes to like getting like the next gig, like, okay, say the tour ends and then like you're out of work for 3 months, like, I mean, you got straight back to the club scene and just
Of course.
next networking again?
Get that
You
GD
should
thing
do
on.
it. You should start networking once you got the gig.
Right.
Absolutely.
You should be looking for the next gig
While you're on.
when you're rehearsing the first gig.
That's what we're all on the phone.
And now with the social networks that's going on, you know, you learn to be your own agent. I mean, if you don't have, you know, the budget to hire someone to do the media for you, which many of us don't, or we just decided to take it on ourselves. But God, Facebook and, you know, Instagram and tweeting and blah, blah, blah. There's a whole way to be, you know, you learn that you wear a lot of hats. So you're a musician. Hopefully you learn how to do production. You learn how to do your own engineering, you know, record your own music, create demo tapes for yourself, learn how to promote yourself. So it is, you know, the more that you can apply yourself in these various ways, the more opportunities you open up for yourself to get more work, it's like the domino effect. Yeah.
And I tell a lot of my students, I'm going to share with you guys, it's very important for you to really love what you're doing. Because there are going to be a lot of times in this industry where you're not going to love the circumstances that you're in, but the love for the music and that instrument is what's going to keep you going. So you have to make sure that you really develop that, you know, because everything is not always as glamorous as it seems once you really get inside of the industry.
And the other thing I would have to say is initially, you have to go to where the work is. None of us actually really live in LA anymore, but we all did, and we put our time in. You know, I get these emails, or even like on my Facebook page from drummers and percussionists saying, I just want to get that tour. I'm like, well, you got to go. You have to move to LA or New York. You can't just sit after Berklee, go move back to your hometown and wherever, you know, not to diss any city, but just like you move back to your hometown, you're just waiting for that one tour. It's like, it's not going to happen. You have to go where the work is, you know, initially.
There's also, you have to create the work too.
Yes.
Like Taku is a pretty good example of that.
Yes.
He's got a clothing line, you know, he's always trying to advance, get further and further. Not just music, but using music as a way to branch off into something else.
But I mean, a couple things. One, I think, you know, there was a great Tommy Tedesco quote where he said, I ain't never heard of nobody breaking into your house to hear you play.
Yeah.
Which for me, it happens. It's like, you gotta get out there. But the other thing is also this thing about Taku in terms of kind of creating this thing. One of the things that we're putting as the, you know, the understanding that it's kind of moving through the door is actually you're playing. You know, like we're talking about the networking. We're assuming all the playing is there. We're assuming yada yada yada. We're assuming that you're putting your hours and your time in, and we continue to try to advance ourselves, our art, every day. I mean, in our 40s and our 50s and whatnot, we're still woodshedding all the time, and influenced by one another and feeling challenged by one another. And to me, it's, once again, that never ends. It's like you know, what you're talking about, as Sam said, you quote unquote made it. It's like there's really no such thing. You know, you're not only looking for the next gig, but like Jeff and I, we talked about getting together and just playing guitars together and learning from each other, and you know, same thing with all these guys. And I've watched this guy, I've known him once again for 20 some odd years, and I've watched, Taku, I mean, his electronics are super deep, his hand percussion is super deep.
And I didn't know any electronic percussion at Berklee.
Yeah.
Because I couldn't afford the gear. So and you have to have your hands on the gear. You guys are,
Yeah, dig it.
you guys have access to a lot of things that I didn't in the 90s. And so like, it took me getting a pop gig where I had to actually go out and buy an octopad and learn it. And then now I'm kind of the electronics guy. Now, fast forward 15, 20 years later, but I definitely
To work for it though.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's worked with it.
You know, so constantly learning.
Since y'all mentioned like your relationships with each other, like outside of music, and I'm sure you probably have like similar relationships with people outside this room too. I was just wondering, like, how do you feel like that was a large part of what kind of got you in the positions that you're in? Like, you think that it was important to make relationships with people outside of, like, off your instruments?
I think off the court is just as important as on the court. It's probably more important. Because you get to find out, I mean, because it's a small group, I mean, of people that are working. Right. It seems to be shrinking, not to discourage anyone. but off the court stuff, that's the shit right there. I mean, because you're building relationships, you're getting an understanding, you're getting an engineer, you're getting like an energy that can propel you to make more relationships. I essentially was shy when I moved to LA, so I needed help. I mean, I'm not that networking guy. I'm surprised I'm even speaking to you right now. But I had to adapt in order to survive as a musician. And I think that's what's beautiful about being a musician. You know, everyone's talking about manufacturing jobs going away in this country. Musicians have to adapt all the time. They gotta learn technology, Pro Tools, 1, 2, 3, digi this, digi that, Logic this, Logic that. You know, it's like, you gotta constantly evolve in order to survive as a musician. Right. I think that's what's helped me as a human being.
Yeah, also on that, to that point, the person who's doing the hiring will call one of these gentlemen and they'll bring along a fistful of their best buddies. So do you know anybody who can play the guitar? Or hey, do you have a guitar player yet?
It will never get to for the most part, it will never get to the cattle call audition stage.
Exactly.
If we need another guitarist going, it's like...
It's actually absolutely what happened with the Bette Midler band.
In close to 20 years of touring, I've auditioned 3 times, and I've not gotten any of those gigs. My whole touring career is about just getting a call word of mouth.
And even, I mean, to dovetail off of that, I mean, 2 things. One, as Daryl was saying, we're only on stage for 2 hours a night. The other 22 hours, we prove yourself over and over again. We've got to hang with each other all day and all night. But the other side of that for me, as Taku was saying, is in terms of this kind of the call thing. Thank you so much. You also have to know, like in terms of the gig, that there's a trust. Like we've all had to step into gigs at the last minute, or like have to learn. I mean, because people are investing hundreds of thousands of dollars in a tour or whatever. So if Taku calls me, he's like, call Tarigh. I know he can handle it. And I tell people, like, for me, my first, because Liz, you had asked Sonny this, my first real break was Walter Beasley. Walter was doing, he was doing a jazz explosion based out of Los Angeles, and they lost their guitar player, and they wanted to hire an LA guy, and he said, don't call anybody, call Tarigh Akoni. So he put his neck on the line for me, and he knew that I would deliver, but I mean, imagine, he had to have a lot of faith, and that's the kind of faith we have to have in one another. I know every one of these guys, I mean, once again, using Daryl's analogy, we're on the court together. I know absolutely every one of these guys is bringing it every night. And I've got to step up and make sure that, like, I cover my position, because I don't want to be the last one. I don't want to be the last one to dream about.
So I see you got,
Yeah, exactly.
Send out the show.
My ass.
Right. But when they needed a guitar player for Bette Midler, we had Jeff, which was wonderful. I absolutely recommended Tarigh Akoni, who I had met at Wally's here in Boston. Isn't that so? I mean, since then we've done countless gigs together, including David Foster and Nicole, on and on. But That just goes to show you, That's, by the way, Little John Roberts played that night too.
But even those relationships that are, that you have outside of the stage or the industry, like every one of these guys, I have great relationships with them, but my trust is in their skill. And when I recommend them, that's what I'm banking on. Not just because we're great friends. So you have to make sure that, the person has the skills to do the job that's required.
But on the flip side, also, the prerequisite is to be able to handle the gig. So oftentimes recommendation is everything off the floor. So you don't have your you could be a burden player, but you don't have your personal stuff together, or you're constantly late. No one's gonna stick their neck out.
No matter how you do it.
Yeah, no matter how you do it.
Well, and my thing is everything that happens in that situation goes as a tick against you. So once again, it's like if you're working your ass off on your instrument, you're the baddest cat on the planet. Why would you be late? Right? Why would you allow that to be the reason you don't get a call? Why would you be an asshole on the gig? Why would you do all these kind of things? Like, it was really, I told these guys, Tim LaFave had a great quote where he said, learn the music, play the shit out of it, don't be a fucking asshole. It's not right? And you look at you know how many hours you're putting in a day, you know how much time you're putting in, you know whether or not, you're the baddest on there. It's like, put the time in, do the gig, don't be, I'm being flip about it, and I'm saying don't be a dick, but my point is simply, it's like all of this goes into this whole globe of like why you are marketable, what are your marketable skills, whether or not you get the call. There are 7 of us on stage, there are thousands of musicians in Los Angeles, New York, Oregon, Atlanta, and all that stuff, but it's these 7 people, and we've all worked together countless times and keep calling each other. Hopefully. Yeah.
So say you get the call and then you have a week to learn 44 songs or 48 songs. What is your process?
If you're a keyboard player, it's hard. Bass player, drum First you say yes. You absolutely take the gig. And then you figure out how to do it. That's exactly what we did. We learned 50 songs. We did.
Yeah. Do you start by listening to the songs over and over again, or do you chart them out? Do you just jam to them? What's it like if you've never heard these songs before?
Everybody has a different process.
Everyone has a different process.
I remember.
In general, you're given enough the material so you can learn any way that is best for you. Matter of fact, now, let's say we're playing a song and it's in a different key than the original. They got software where you can send out the song in a key. Charts, are easily done now, a lot easier than they were back when we were kind of coming up. On and on. And you can also request something if you're missing it. Call the music director or something. Hey, can you send me a chart in B flat because I'm a trumpet player, or this kind of thing. Things are a lot more easily done to give you the tools that you need to learn now in the digital world.
Well, and I also, if you're asking specifically about the process, like most things, we all have a different process in how we learn. And for me, I have to write everything down because I can't remember stuff very well. So it used to be cheat sheets, and then it turned into actually notation, truly notating each part. Then now I do everything on Sibelius so I can have it on my iPad because I can't remember. And if you're going from one gig to another, 30 tunes for this gig, 20 tunes for that one. Sam just literally flew from doing the Bette Midler tour to another gig. He did a thing. Do you mind if I tell the other gigs you were doing? Yeah. Oh, so he flew in to do one off with Dave Paz, came back to our tour, then flew off and did a one off with Jody Watley, came back to our tour. So that's another 20 tunes for each artist. So to keep that in your head, sometimes you either have to chart it out. Some people have a great memory, like Teddy Campbell. When we did the Backstreet Boys, he didn't read music at the time, so he showed up with the whole show memorized. He showed up to rehearsal with the whole show memorized. Because the other thing to remember is, especially in LA, you don't show up to rehearsal to learn music. Right? You go to rehearsal to play music, right? So that means you put in your woodshed time, you come in and you smash.
Well, that's kind of whack. You should get paid for that.
Maybe told you to get paid.
Check the mail.
Your hardest work
true.
Before you get to rehearsal,
Exactly.
you don't get paid for that.
That's true.
Oh, okay, I don't understand.
I had an
I
experience.
have to sit on that side.
I had an experience like a few years ago. I got called into Bruce Hornsby, and this is like after doing Earth, Wind, and Fire and some of the other stuff. But that gig challenged me. I had to use every tool in the arsenal in order to get the material down, because a wave of 20 songs came first. A couple of days later, another 20 songs.
Wow.
He pulls from a songbook of about 150 songs, and he sits down and just starts to play. You have to know where you are. So, notating, sleeping with headphones on, working out, music just playing. I'm not necessarily just going in, you know. So everybody has their own method. You know, you have to schedule it. You have to make sure that you make the time to get that in. Because nothing's worse than showing up on the gig and you're the only cat that doesn't know the music.
I'll say reading, I'll emphasize that reading is important.
Yes,
I mean, like, not for everybody, but it's definitely helped me get probably about half of the work that I've gotten in LA. So I would encourage anybody that has that as their aspiration. You know, you can start today and do that. Now, seriously, it's like, it's just a language, you know, you can do it.
And because you know how to read, I mean, that helped me tremendously with the Bruce situation. I didn't get any charts, but I knew how to notate things, and I just made myself some notes, and it was good, you know, and it helped get it inside quicker, like faster.
I did it as a kid with Mo. I was going to tell the story about when we did the David Foster thing, the DVD. So see? we got a call from David Foster to do his Hitman 2 DVD in Las Vegas with all these different artists. And all their
Pretty much impossible.
Yeah. And then after that, we were going to go on the road with David and do a whole other set of his music. And we were going to then do a gig at the end with Natalie Cole, so we had to learn all of her shows. Yeah. So we were literally trying to learn 3 different shows of music at the same time, and literally fly from one place to another. And once again, if like for me, reading music is hugely important for something like that, because there's just no way to keep all that in your mind. And also, a lot of times, you know, when you're in a rehearsal situation, he's going, hey, bar 33 to 34 out, second time here, put, you know, fermata here, and we're going to put repeats there. He doesn't want to say it twice. You know, there's not time, so you're literally taking notes and you're moving on. So, you know, it's something I actually didn't read. I couldn't read music when I got to LA. Like, I didn't finish at Berklee. I got to LA and realized how important it was, and I just kind of, you know, sat down and started transcribing everything I could and trying to get my shit together so that, you know, I can get to some of the phone calls.
The other side of that is naturally your nerves are going to kick in anyway. If you're in a brand new situation, because you're there, you need to prove yourself. You want this gig. You need to have this gig. Your nerves are going to kick in. The better prepared you are, the calmer you can be, the closer you get to nailing it.
Do you all have time to like listen to music as far as for your own musical enjoyment, or do you feel like when you're on the gig, you're learning based off of the gig that you're on? Or like, do you feel like, you know,
That's a great
I
question.
always take time to listen to music that I'm not necessarily, like right now we're on tour with Bette Midler. We spent, 6 weeks rehearsing? I'm not listening to any of that music in my free time. My free time, because I need a break from it. You know, if there's something in the show that changes, then I'll pay attention to it. If Mark says a note or whatever. But I spend time listening to music that's going to continue to inspire me as an artist. You know, beyond this gig.
Sure. Did you have a question?
Yeah, a little bit ago, Daryl mentioned something about, you know, how as time has gone on, the number of players that are actually working is shrinking. Why do you think that is? I mean, I'm trying to think.
I don't want to be accountable. I
mean, I'm trying to give you tasty growth here.
Let me just put it to you this way. And I'm not going to go through the whole history of it. When I was in LA in the 80s, there were gigs abundant. I mean, there were a lot of gigs, a lot of musicians were being called. And as I've gotten older, maybe I'm just seeing a lot of people doing gigs that were doing huge gigs before, are just doing small gigs that are combined together. And it just seems like the opportunities are shrinking.
I'd like to jump in on that. while certain opportunities might be diminishing in what maybe you or we are familiar with, now with the advent of, you know, what's going on Facebook and social media, new ideas, new things are coming through all the time. And in fact, people with just an idea, bam, just takes off like wildfire. So in one sense, things are always evolving, and that's something that I can't stress enough. To be innovative, to come up with something that no one has thought of before, because there's always going to be people saying, well, you need to do this, or you need to do that, or don't do that. Well, that's important information, but you take it and you see how that works with your DNA, and then you kind of come up with your own innovations, because there's ideas right in this room that can take off that no one's ever thought of before. So challenge yourself, come up, be an innovator, you know, understand what people have done before, and that's, like I say, good information, but don't let anyone ever tell you what you should or shouldn't do, because ultimately everyone has to create their own script.
And what I'm seeing also, jumping off what Daryl says, the people who used to be doing all these huge gigs that may not be, oftentimes it's because they didn't evolve.
Right. Yeah.
And they're still living in their heyday or expecting certain things to be a certain way and not stepping out of their comfort zone. We, all of us, continually try to evolve and better ourselves, and I think that's probably why we're working.
A quick question. All of you are artists yourselves, and do you use your being an artist to continue your evolution?
That's a great question.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we're artists. I mean, I mean, yeah. Beyond any gig I've done, I have expressions of Sonny Emery, artistic expressions that I want the world to know about. So, you know, I'm trying to do my projects. I know Mo is doing his.
Yeah, I've done a bunch of also group projects, you know, different combinations of people, and we played on each other's projects, you know, Jeff, Sam, Sonny, everybody here has played on each other's projects, you know, so we're always, as independents, like I actually kind of picked up the independent flag back kind of early, so I've been, you know, going to media and going to like conferences, doing international productions, and like really checking out like what music is on a world level, including, you know, intellectual property, and, you know, how does that affect us in terms of, you know, China and every other place in the world, and I still do. But like I say that it's a real exciting time for independence right now, you know. I do a lot in the UK scene, and that scene is really cool because there's a real love for music, and like people are really into their craft, you know. I love to see that, you know. I know I see it here as well, but I think you guys are really an exciting time, and I think the thing now is like, how do you make it exciting to perform music? How do you make it exciting for the listener to listen to it? And, you know, how do you find other ways to merchandise it? You know?
There's something I'd like to throw in about people who get to a certain age, and these fellows are a bit younger than me, but not too much younger than me. And what happens is that the world does shrink, and it winnows out the lucky and the unmotivated get left behind. What you're seeing is the creme de la creme. You're seeing the best of the best. But and you'll hear a lot of negativity about the future from older people, and for good reason. They have no future. It's really important to remember as we from another generation look at you, that you understand that what we also know is that, as Jeff said, you're going to find a way. You will invent worlds that we know nothing about. The world is full of promise. So take this information and understand that it's going to be laid on a matrix which is unique to you. And bang! There's not one of us who isn't convinced that you're not going to have a wonderful time, and we would give just about anything to be riding in the back of your van.
Yeah,
Or one they want me know right now. Back to 31. So.
And case in point, I met a beautiful woman, lives in Oregon. I knew moving to Oregon would affect my career, yet I decided to reinvent some of the things that I know. So I decided to use a looper, go in my studio, put some percussion tracks and bass tracks down. For the first time in my life, and I've been a musician and toured with all kinds of great people, I started doing house concerts. I started a mailing list. People know me in this little town, and 100 people will come out and pay $25, for a great night of music, and I'll bring in a special guest, and I'm reinventing how to make a living as a musician. So, I mean, really, I love this saying, your only limitation is your imagination. And the house concert was such a lovely way, to bring that intimate performance together. I mean, you're used to playing on a stage or, with 10 musicians, and all of a sudden, wow, this is really nice for me. I got a chance to speak and talk about my experiences playing with Morris, with Ray Charles, and we did one of these together, just the two of us, and it's lovely. Why not reinvent how we make a living and constantly push the boundaries?
Yeah. You can't let your ego get in the way of it. How are you developing that?
Yeah, you can't let yours sing the fun.
Well, it's hard. I mean, when you've had a successful career touring with major artists, and like Jeff said, you've been on this big stage, big production, big checks, hopefully. And all that goes with that is it's hard to come to a place where you go, okay, I have to reinvent myself and find something new. That may not be as big or as glamorous, but you're doing it for the art, for the craft.
You just gotta stay home. Like I said, it never ends. So when it's over, I get that call, hey, can you come down to the club Friday night? Yeah. What's the thing? 175. Okay, cool. But because I love
being, I'm like, cool.
Yeah, I can't afford any guys are available. That's just because I just love to play.
Yeah.
Now I think I come from a business school. I didn't study music, like these guys, but I like to reinvent myself by creating new clients or new artists to work with, like younger artists. Maybe I can help them get their art off the ground or something. That's what I enjoy doing. So, and then I'll try to shop, try to get a deal some kind of way. But there's all kind of ways to, to get your art out there when you're not playing. When you're, on the road. There's so many ways you can.
I think what you hear from here is also a phrase that I like to use, and that's work gets work.
Right.
Get busy, do something.
Right, get busy, right, exactly.
How do you continue to manage and navigate some of the things outside of music as far as life, like health insurance, maintaining your health, maintaining relationships romantically and family with like how do you navigate the
Any part of it.
Great question.
Let me start. I've been married 17 years. I have 2 kids, and I think you have to find a special person that understands what you do. It's not going to try to, distract you from who you are. And I kind of made sure that before I settled down, because it could be just a headache. It can totally take you out of being creative with playing and all that. If you're not happy at home.
It's a sacrifice, isn't it?
Oh, definitely. That's why I said earlier, you got to make sure that you love this, because there are a lot of sacrifices. I've been married for 25 years. I have 2 great kids, but every time I get on that plane and I leave, you feel that being away from home, and it's like, it's an abnormal lifestyle that we live when we tour. It's abnormal. Most people go to work, they go home. Go to work, home. We go to work, we get on the bus. The next gig, right? The next gig, the next
every other month. Yeah, maybe.
Yeah.
You know, so it's
That's someone that can stay with you through the hard times and the good times,
Right.
because they really believe in you. And I'm in 20 years now married, and I've seen Lori since September. I've seen her maybe total of 8 or 9 days.
Yeah.
And that's, you know, we put this thing together, and before that I was in England. We were humping. I mean, like, really, the amount of work that it takes to put out a production like we're doing tonight, it's just an incredible amount of work, even with the very best in the world. We did it in about a third of the time that it's supposed to be done, but I mean, like, this time I haven't texted my wife in 2 days, you know, like, so, like, fell asleep, woke up next day, and I went to rehearsal, you know, I mean, I don't recommend that, but.
Get that sad face.
To answer your question about the health insurance thing, when we first got married, I kind of bought it myself. I think it was Kaiser or one of the IPOs. Digital. And that was very expensive. And it's probably doubled since then. But now my wife actually works at a hospital, so my insurance is basically with hers now. So that saved about $800 a month, something like that. That's expensive. So, but I never got it until I had kids.
But I'll also say this. Okay, so Sam's wife got my wife a job at the hospital where she is now. From like 8, 9 years ago.
Yeah.
Sonny's wife, my wife and Sonny's wife used to work together. I mean, like, you know, our wives kind of have a network as well. Daryl's wife, we have get-togethers and we're home and stuff. And we like generally like each other, you know. But yeah, so like actually having that, even the wife network is a support in a certain way. You know, that's how we're out here.
The other big one is taxes. Does anybody actually want to go there?
Whole wife thing. I've been married for 22 years, and the thing that I think that how I equate success is raising my children to be, you know, fruitful and powerful, empowered. That's how, as a husband and as a father, that's how I rate my success. I mean, I'm a musician, I love music, that's always going to be there, I always breathe it, I live it, I drink it. But being able to sustain a marriage and raising 2 beautiful young kids, that's the ultimate of success for me. Really with that after the shrinkage.
Why I asked you about taxes is because you get that big $10,000 check, and you think you just earned $10,000.
Well, yeah, what I was gonna say,
that's really important.
Exactly.
You gotta think you're losing if you're incorporated. You still got to be careful because they don't take any taxes out.
Yes, right.
And they don't, by law, have to provide a 1099 at the end of the year, which I found out the hard way. So always think about you're going to get a third or not more of that money taken out of your check. And save it, invest it, but
Don't spend it.
Don't spend it. I tell young musicians that all the time. Tours fucking end.
Well, and also I'm saying, just to dovetail off of this, I'm not sure how much you guys are aware of what we're talking in terms of incorporating and whatnot. A lot of musicians as individuals will actually have a corporation, which is a payout corporation. So that, like, for instance, mine is called Road Weary Incorporated. So, so the idea is, so they pay my payout corporation, and they can't, or they don't take out any taxes and whatnot. So I've actually got to pay quarterly and pay my taxes and pull that money out. But it's actually, by talking about health insurance, one of the original reasons I incorporated was because my wife at the time, she had a pre-existing condition, so it was very difficult for her to get health insurance. So we were actually able to provide her health insurance through my corporation and allow for her to have health insurance even with a pre-existing condition. So that's one way to go about getting health insurance as opposed to being an individual or kind of sole proprietor, yada yada and all that stuff.
So you incorporate and create your own company.
Yeah, and you can do it through, there are different ways that you can incorporate. be it, L Corporation, or sorry, C Corporation, S Corporation, etc. And do your research, because once again, as we all kind of talked about, there's been a fundamental shift in what it means to be a musician. So what these guys are talking about in terms of being this shrinkage of, use that term, I know, but of artistry, but we're also talking about Jeff was saying the fact that there's all these possibilities open. One of the things we're saying is there is a shift in how you guys consume music, how you make music, and how you get music out to the world around you. So it's up to you to kind of not only innovate, but even kind of find these things that are still inspiring us as musicians. Like, as Jeff was saying, we're actually watching some of these, like our friends in Lettuce and Snarky Puppy and all this stuff, like the way that people are actually getting their music out, or even Dirty Loops and whatnot. How people are actually getting their music out, how they're being seen. There has been a fundamental paradigm shift in terms of how you guys get music, consume music, your relationship to music, and we're in a different place with that. But we're once again not only inspired by you, but be aware of what it means to be a musician, your artistry, and do your research in terms of business, in terms of production. Like, you can no longer just be that baddest drummer in the world. You know what I mean? You can no longer just be that baddest guitar player. You need to know a little bit about writing, about other ancillary income, about those mailbox checks, which we all love. You need to know about business. You need to know about your being incorporated, as we're talking about now. You want to know about mechanical royalties. There is such a thing anymore. But it's like, but these are the kinds of things that you have to have an understanding of to be the independent entity that you all are as artists and as musicians.
Yeah, and I think building a team, like Mo was talking about. So if you know someone in the family that's an attorney, that would be really important, because on tours like what we're doing, there's contracts.
Yes.
And if you're not really learning and reading contracts, it'd be good to have an attorney look it over, because it's going to benefit the artist. It's never going to benefit you.
Right.
So read the contract and make it benefit you. Why not?
And also, I'm sorry, not to be too long-winded, but just as another thing, remember that you guys create content, right? These industries are actually making millions and millions of dollars off the content you create, right? So, but somehow, how is it that we feel disempowered in this situation, or disenfranchised in this situation? When they can't, the big mucky mucks in the tall buildings, they can't write a song. It's going to be your song, but they don't want to pay you. So now it's like trying to figure out how do we get paid, how do we get people paid, how do we stay paid, and how do we make a living as, once again, these independent industries. Because all of you might wind up being separate corporations and separate artistic entities and whatnot, but you have to be almost in-house with promotion, with contracts, all that kind of stuff.
I got a question for them.
Yeah, okay.
It's kind of along the lines of what we've been talking about. Everyone know about the song Blurred Lines. How do you guys feel about what went down with the court case with Pharrell and Robin Thicke losing that court case?
They shouldn't have picked a fight. They started.
Do you think the song was very similar to the Marvin Gaye song?
I do it.
Similarity. Shaking his head.
The reason why I say that, does that make writers write differently now because of this court case? You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm saying. You've got to be aware of what's going on in society right now, because no pun intended. You just got to always stay on.
Mark Ronson added the Gap Band as writers to.
Yes.
Right.
It's interesting, I see these songs coming down now and all the pop records that I'm seeing come through have 5, 6, 7 writers. Everybody has jumped on. Elvis used to be able to get away with that, but now it is, as we've eviscerated the income stream of CD distribution and so thoroughly evaporated that, the only things that are left are getting parceled out this way. That the ruling against Pharrell on that court case, in my opinion, was absolutely ludicrous. It wasn't a theft. It was an influence, and the notion that you would consider it that was simply a non-professional jury responding to a visceral love of Marvin Gaye. I'm sorry, that was ridiculous.
I'm actually standing on my own with this, and I don't know if I want to pick this fight over here. But there's a part of me that I appreciate and respect it, but I stand on another part of the fence where I kind of think to myself, A, where's the innovation? But second of all, how much can you take? Like, how much does constitute actually that? How much you take? I mean, you take the bass line, you take the riff, is it the right key, is it the same? I mean, and the Sam Smith thing was, for me, was a little different, you know, in the sense that it didn't seem like as much of I mean, obviously, you could sing the song, one song over the other, but there's a question for him, where's that line? You know, no pun intended.
Right.
No. Yeah, what's that line? I'm gonna do it.
By the way,
I think that what that says is that I like to be able to write the melodies that are energizing me at any particular given time, and not be looking over my shoulder as to whether or not to put them out. I'm going to be accused of
I completely agree.
plagiarism.
I completely agree, but I think part of my question is when it starts to move into like literally the sound of production. Like that's when I start to kind of go, how much do you need to take?
John Lennon, My Sweet Lord, was a, I'm sorry, George Harrison, my apologies. George Harrison, My Sweet Lord, and whether, for that matter, George Harrison, Something in the Way She Moves. It's a little closer to my being cranky.
Right.
I was gonna say, I'm the timekeeper. So in about 5 minutes, we're gonna wrap it up and give you guys time to do what you'd like to do, is to go up and get pictures, that kind of thing. So about 5 more minutes in the open, and you guys can maybe look at your cameras and, you know, catch those moments.
I'll say, I hope there was some kind of discussion, with intelligent discussion like this about it at the trial.
Yeah, exactly.
And I'm also saying there's another vocation for us, you know what I mean? Like,
Right.
we are people.
Yeah.
And there's gonna be a lot more of those cases, you know, so. You know,
Well, certainly,
everybody
the reason why I brought it up is like, you know, just moving forward, how does this affect your writing?
No, yeah, totally.
Songwriters out there, because when we were your age, we would write and we'd have publishing deals, and now that, I think that sort of changed a little bit, but I was never really thinking about who was looking over my shoulder when I was writing the songs.
But by the same token, if you had a knowledgeable publisher, which you would have had in those days, unlike what's happened today, a knowledgeable publisher would have said to you, I'm sorry, nice try, you just rewrote Bobby Benton.
Yeah, David Fox used to say, I like that song so much I wrote it.
Well, in a similar kind of realm, do you ever find your own personal values in conflict with artists you perform for that may do some things in the and then, do you allow that to affect your money?
I'm sorry,
do you find your own values in conflict with things that some artists may do that you perform for or that you play for? Things that, you know, come out in the media, and I mean, entertainment industry is entertainment industry already has a magnifying glass on it.
Are you asking if we would perform with Justin Bieber?
Well, in his defense, because I was in Michael Jackson's question. Okay, I'll just put it this way, and I'm not going to tell you what happened to us, but Justin did pay his musicians off of that movie that he made.
Yeah.
Okay, and this is nothing on Michael Jackson, because my whole point being, sometimes not even the artist, maybe the management, and maybe, you know, my checks were cut by a company called AEG, and the rest is history as far as Michael and AEG, for all of you that know. But, so sometimes it's not even just the artist, it might be like the big corporation you're working for, you know? You don't necessarily have to get involved in all their stuff, you're just trying to get your check from whatever, you know. I think if you follow the money anywhere, you're gonna find some something that's not gonna agree.
And you're hired to do a specific job. That's how I look at it. And if somebody's values are not quite in line with mine, if I say, okay, I'm gonna do the job for you, I'll do the job and I'll try to get out as soon as I possibly can. If it really irritates me and bugs me to a point where, you know, it's a detriment to my job, but I'm trying to make sure that, you know, that's not an issue.
And I think that as we're also saying, it's like it does become a question of, I mean, you're your own barometer with that kind of stuff, and there are going to be situations I found myself in a situation where I've said no to something because I didn't like the surroundings, or I didn't believe in what I felt like these people were promoting. You know, I found myself just going, I'm not the right guy. You know what I mean? And I mean, I know we've all been in the situation, but also there's also situations where there's stuff that's alleged that's not really true, or there's, I mean, you know, so it's one of those things where it's kind of a case-by-case basis based on, you know, your own personal barometer.
And if you're in a position to turn certain things down because other things are going on, versus like, I better take this job even though it's not exactly what I wanted. That would lead to a job that you would like.
You guys, let's take this time to give our special guest a warm round of applause.